Kanye used to be my favorite artist of all time, and now I don't even trust him to make a halfway decent song. Throughout all of the Vultures era, I defended him, but eventually it finally hit me. The moment I became completely disillusioned with Kanye as a musician and a person. So let me break down my relationship with Kanye as my favorite artist through the years, and ultimately the moment I realized why he would never be the same Kanye I once knew. So let's start with the Donda rollout, which was the first album that really made me a true Kanye fan. The rollout to that album was crazy, and what mainly grabbed my attention was the whole Certified Lover Boy versus Donda thing. Those were some great times. Anyway, after Donda, I began revisiting all of Kanye's old albums, mainly Late Registration, which for a while became my favorite album of all time. Kanye was the first artist that I listened to their entire discography, and that really opened me up to, listening to more music and more artist discographies. But more than the music, I fell in love with the man behind the music. The man who spoke his mind no matter what, and the man who believed in himself no matter what.
Do whatever you're gonna do, but you're not going to bully me. You're not gonna stop me, because my mother made me believe in myself. No matter how many people tell me, stop believing in yourself. Stop saying what you can do. Stop affirming what you're gonna do and then completing that in real life. That's the improper way to do it. I refuse to follow those rules that society has set up in the way that they control people with low self-esteem, with improper.
He was absolutely unapologetically himself in every aspect of his life, with no exception. And it was really inspirational to see someone like that exist in real life. Someone who everyone made fun of or talked down on for his ideas, but who could actually turn those ideas into grand successes, simply because he believed to the fullest extent in his own ability. From here, Kanye would begin a downward spiral. Now, Kanye has always been known for saying crazy, outlandish things, but never like this. Throughout all of this though, while I started to become more disillusioned with the person of Kanye West, I still loved his music. And deep down, I was hoping that the confident, self-believing, inspirational figure that I knew was still in there, and that this was just a lapse in judgment. And let me be clear, I don't support, any of the things he was saying, but I had idolized him for so long that I still kind of had that belief, you know what I'm saying? Which brings me to the Vultures era. I was the biggest fan of Kanye I had ever been up until this point. I followed all the YouTubers covering the album, shout out Leaky, on that note, all that. I looked at the Reddits for the updates on the new album. From the Everybody leak to all the random ass performances he did in the rollout, I was invested. And this was the first time I could really follow a Kanye rollout properly in detail, you know what I'm saying? Of course, Vultures eventually did release, and at the time, I liked it. I knew even then it wasn't up to par with a lot of his old albums, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And I feel like I enjoyed it more with the bias that I had invested so much time into the rollout of the album, if that kind of makes sense. Like, I was so excited, I kind of convinced myself that it was better than it really was. So Kanye would continue to ruin his self-image, and it kind of came to the point where I just had to accept the fact that somebody that I'd looked up to for so long was just not a moral human being. And I don't believe that discounts all the inspiration and the positive lessons he's taught me, but nonetheless, I had to move on, and I knew I couldn't keep waiting on him to become a good person. This didn't affect me listening to his music though. I was able to successfully separate the art from the artist. But above all, and I think this goes for all artists, people can overlook your flaws personally if you keep making good music. And at this point, Kanye was still making halfway decent music, so I had hope. From here, I waited patiently for Vultures 2. Granted, this time a little less invested than before. And it finally released on August 3rd, 2024. And yeah, this shit was some ass, bruh. The worst officially released Kanye album to date. Unfinished, messy, AI? Are we serious, bro? This time I couldn't kid myself. I knew right off the bat this album was awful. He was no longer making decent music. This was just trash. This was the start of my true disappointment as a Kanye fan. Cause he's been a shitty person for a minute, right? But now he's making shitty music too? Like, you're giving me no reason to like you anymore. However, there was one thing that still persisted in my mind. A little bit of hope. I had seen this man make incredible, life-changing music, and I still had a little bit of trust in him that he could do it again. So I stopped following all the Ye-related YouTubers, stopped looking at the Reddit, all of that. I didn't keep up with the rollouts to Bully or Donda 2 or whatever else was happening in the Ye sphere at that point, but I still had a little bit of trust in Ye's ability to make some good music. I knew that if he dropped a song or an album on streaming, I would give it a listen at the least. Then he released World War III. At this point, I wasn't even following anything to do with Ye, so I just happened to see it on TikTok. But it proved one thing. It was now entirely impossible to separate the art from the artist. The bullshit that he was previously only speaking on social media about and in interviews was now all over his music. I mean, look at this fucking song cover, bro. Like, this shit is nasty. This shit is disgusting. However, even after all that, this wasn't the moment that I realized I was truly done with Ye. Even if, yeah, this is pretty bad. That came with the later release of Cousins. For some reason, this shit just hit me so hard, bro. Like, this is truly disgusting. Like, what the fuck? And this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but maybe I just become so numb to all the racist and anti-Semitic remarks he'd made that seeing this, it really hit me that this is not the Kanye that I fell in love with all those years ago. It just made me feel so icky. I completely fell out of love with Ye in every aspect. Later, he would officially drop Down to 2 on streaming, and despite not listening to it back in 2022, I would not give it a listen now. At this point, I had no faith in Ye to make good music, so I didn't even bother to give it a listen. And that brings me to the release of Bully, or at least a few songs from Bully. I saw Ye released it, and my first thought was, I just do not have a care to listen to this. I looked at it and I just knew it was gonna be bad. There was no other way around it. But then I got in my head like, damn, I should listen to it so I can make a video on it because, you know, Ye videos do really well on YouTube and I could clip farm and all of that, right? So I folded. I listened to it. It was only 3 songs, but the second I did, I immediately regretted it. Because of course, it was ass. I knew that going in. But when I finished, I realized I don't really want to make a video on Bully. I don't want to make a video talking about something so awful and someone who is equally as awful. So I chose to make this video instead, of course, so I can still sell out and get my Ye video, but also do whatever the fuck I want to do. Going forward, I'm not going to be listening to anything Ye puts out, as there's simply no point. Until I see a real sign of change in his personality and his music, I'm done with anything Ye related. I am, of course, still truly grateful for all of the amazing music he's made in the past and all the inspiration that he's gifted me with throughout the years. Truly, I do hope he can surround himself with the right people, find the help he needs, and somehow get back on track, but I just don't know if it's in the cards, bro. That's all I got for y'all today. You know, I love each and every one of you. Please make sure to comment, subscribe. I reply to every comment, so please do your thing down there. Good night.